So welcome everybody to the Wada Forum. Bonjour, bonsoir à tous. This is a very exciting forum. We are kicking off the Wada Study Summer Group. Per your all's request, we put together a study guide for the summer of just a compilation of a bunch of free resources on a bunch of different topics, especially focused on blockchain, AI, as well as kind of the core business development type goals. So this is our very first session. Glad that you're all going to be here today. And let's go to the next slide. All right, so, we're still in the WADA Forum. Our statement of purpose is to elevate underrepresented groups through the application of technology and invest in a more equitable future. Notre mission, élever les groupes sous-représentés grâce à l'application de la technologie et investir dans un avenir plus équitable. All right. So glad for those of you that made it here today. We're officially announcing the launch of our summer study group. Spend your summer with the WADA community on the WADA Forum. We will be meeting each Thursday as usual to discuss a bunch of different topics. And our special CBCA Scholarship Challenge, we are offering 5 spots on the paid Cardano Academy certification course for whoever collects the most free certificates this summer. So, very exciting. A really important part of this whole summer challenge, though, is that it's not just going to be me here hosting every week. We're going to introduce a rotating moderator. So not necessarily that you would have to do the intro stuff, open the room, but you would be welcome to. But in particular, moderating the discussion after. So this week we have Nana Safo, who will be moderating, and we need to get, maybe by the end of this call, some volunteers to fill in at least the next 3 slots, just so you guys can be prepared and ready for the next few weeks. So maybe here I'll invite Nana Safo to come over and say hi. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Megan, for doing the introductory part. I believe everybody can hear me.
Yes, we are hearing you well.
All right. So, once again, welcome to everybody for joining us this day. And thank you for making time out of a busy schedule to join us on this Wada Forum, as you always do. Last week, if you would recall, I did leave you guys with an inspirational note. That is to, whatever it is that you're going to learn throughout the week, to try and integrate it with local reality so that we'll have a beautiful discussion today. Before I get started, I want to know how many of you were able to access the platforms to, have a look at the courses, in order to, in order to get yourself abreast with the topic of discussion for today. And of course, today we are discussing how blockchain actually works, which is we're looking at the fundamentals of blockchain, right? And I am stepping in as moderator and not a tutor here. So it's going to be an open discussion, and I would encourage everybody to, engage with the discussion so that we'll have a very nice time here today. So if you can show by hand, just use a raise your hand or maybe a thumbs up. I want to know how many of you were able to access the course materials for this particular topic. Oh, no one was able to do it. That's interesting. Anyways, blockchain fundamentals is definitely something I'm pretty sure, you all have had access to, because you're all part of this you know, blockchain thing. Like, I don't know if you get what I mean. But we know that you all have been here. I mean, you all have been here, which means that if one way or the other, have an access to blockchain education, you've done some few researches to try and understand, like when we say blockchain, exactly what is it, right? So I'm quite sure that you all have at least a certain level of knowledge that we can probably term it as fundamental to this. So it shouldn't be, a blocker if none of you were able to access the platform. But going forward, I would advise that for any other topic of discussion, you try your best to, access these platforms and take these courses, because that is the only way we can guarantee you, getting access to the CBCA certification scholarship that we are looking to offer at the end of this whole study program. Megan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump in and kind of mention, something about this program is we kind of designed it on a Monday through Thursday in terms of looking at some of the materials before the forum. But you can also, if you get engaged in the discussion today, maybe it would prompt you to kind of look at it after. So it can be kind of either before or after the discussion that you choose to dive into it. But really, the point of all of this is just kind of to get everyone excited again back into, what more can I learn about these different topics? Because exactly like Nana Saf was saying, sometimes we just get, we get into like our rhythm of what we say every time. Like when someone asks you, what is blockchain? Like, why do I care? You have your things you say. But it's sometimes nice when you're so involved in something to also take a look back at how other people are introducing it to kind of get new ideas. And also just kind of like vet materials that you might want to share also within your community. So if we go through it, we can say, oh, this is good or this is not as good, or I'm going to take pieces of this and not so much of that. So that's just kind of a reminder of where we're at and kind of the purpose of some of those materials and resources that we shared. But maybe it would be interesting to know just from the audience, like why you didn't access it. Is it a time thing? Is it, the topic is too basic? Are you thinking you'll do it after? I can admit from my end, I just got kind of busy this week and I was planning to join the discussion today and probably use the weekend, this weekend to catch up on some of the different things based on people's feedback here. So that's my excuse.
Got you. And I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody else would want to share the excuse for not being able to access the courses. But I would like to give opportunity to about 2 people to do that, and then we can move on with the discussions, right? Because like I said earlier, we have been in this ecosystem for a while now, which means that one way or the other, you have taken the time to probably do your own research or, take some few courses to understand the fundamentals of what you're doing here. So it still means that we can have this, we can have today's discussion and probably learn a thing or two in addition to what we already know. So, William, why were you unable to access the platforms to take a course yet?
Good evening, everyone. With me, my major issue is the pressure at work because this time around we are in the election period. So will definitely not be around very much because of the tight schedule that I'm having at work. So yeah, that's the reason why I couldn't go through the materials. But if chance allows, I will definitely go through and maybe take up one moderation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for sharing that update. It's very important for us to know what schedules are, clashing with your day-to-day activities and how you are probably maneuvering around it. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Any other person? One more. Okay, Olivier. Olivier, go ahead. Looks like your microphone is not working. I can see that you're on mute, but then when you talk, we are not able to hear anything. So maybe you should try and fix it. In the meantime, Alfred.
Yeah, thank you. In all honesty, I have no excuse. I think it was kind of intentional, not opening because I wanted to see how it feels. Like, okay, let me see how the process gets started, and then yeah, I'll know how it is, and then can take action. So I was kind of okay. Let me get to the call, and then from there I can know, actions to take. So
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I mean, it's all good, right? Yeah, it's all good. I see that Olivier dropped. Hopefully, he's able to fix his mic once he's back. But while he's not here, I would just proceed. I would like us to proceed so that when he comes in, if he has anything to add, of course, he would add. We have just about 3 minutes to get off here. So, yeah, I know that all of you here, at least through the CATS hackathon series that we had, you all had the opportunity to engage with your communities, to identify some problems in which, of course, you were also empowered to, come up with solutions. Of course, that is how you were able to participate in the hackathon, right? So since we are going to discuss the fundamentals of blockchain here, I believe that was a very key instrument in, the research you did in your communities. But I want us to do away with all of the theories and, the technical or textbook definitions that we probably know already, right? I want us to go on a layman approach and, see how we all can help each other to understand exactly what blockchain is. So for the many of you who engage with your communities, I believe some of you did come across market women, traders, students, lecturers, professors, what have you. If you had to meet, let's say, a market woman today, okay, and explain to them what blockchain is, for them to understand how it relates with your community, right? Who here is willing to give a try in terms of telling us what blockchain is in a very layman approach? And of course, like I mentioned the other time, I want you guys to integrate local analogies so that it's easy for us to understand. So in your definition, I would like to hear some, real world analogies that you can actually attribute to your locality. And then let's see where we can take that discussion onto. So who is interested in giving it a try, explaining blockchain to a market woman for her to understand what it is and the kind of role it plays in the community? Yeah. Go ahead, William.
I think the easiest way I can explain this is by giving an example, especially on the land disputes that roam most African countries. And through the use of technology called blockchain, you can actually have a land registry, and you definitely have uh, clear access because the records cannot be tampered by anyone. Okay.
Okay, so I can see William taking it from the angle of land registry, which, of course, to a market woman probably would sound a bit technical. Does anyone else want to try, in a very simple terms, probably use an analogy that probably would, resonate with a market woman? Let me see if I can call out a name. Irene, do you want to give it a try? Okay, Irene is muted. I'll mention another name. Solomon. If I mention your name, please feel free to unmute and then, respond to the discussion so that we can have a wonderful discussion here. Yeah, Solomon is not coming through. Then let me give it to Alfred.
Okay, yeah. So the question is explaining blockchain to a market woman, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, explain something to someone, you have to first understand, you have to use an analogy that they quite understand. So to a market woman, what does she understand? She understands commerce and she understands trade. So I'll come from that angle and tell her that, okay, let's say, for instance, after, the end of, how will I put it? After the end of a trade, each day, so there is this, she usually goes to the bank to put money, to deposit all our money there, because it is more safer than actually putting it in, locking it in the shop or digging ground and then putting it there. It's more safer, but she also faces issues of trust or sometimes lack of accountability from institution, whereby most of our data, most of our information, most of the things that she did not opt to, that this institution, this financial institution, these banks are using it without without consent. So, and she has nothing to do about it, because they hold enough power. You have no choice. That's the only choice you have. So now there's now a new system whereby instead of you going to a centralized source, a centralized institution, there is now a new system, a new technology that makes it possible for this process to be distributed, to be decentralized, whereby you yourself can be like a custodian of your own money, whatever thing you want to keep, that you don't have to go to a centralized a centralized institution, to use that service. So in literally what I'm trying to say is like, now you can now own your own. You can now be a custodian to your own money. You can now save. Yeah. So I don't know if she's going to understand that.
Well, I guess some market women are, they are well educated, right? So it probably will be easy for any woman of such caliber to understand that. But it's an interesting perspective you are bringing in there. And let me give the space to Erin to see what perspective she's also bringing on board, and then maybe we can discuss further. Erin.
Hi, Nana. So you called me when I was not in a position to talk. I was on the way, but now I'm home. So just to try and explain blockchain to a market, woman. With an example, I will say, let's say every time you sell, let's say, an onion, then you keep your record. You have a book where you sell one tomato or one onion, you write it down. I've sold one, I've sold two. So in this book, assume any other person coming to you maybe to buy is having a copy where maybe they are recording each and every single thing that is sold in the market, or they buy or they sell. So in case I change my book as the woman who is selling, Nana is also seeing that I'm changing, just to bring transparency. So that is blockchain from my end.
That's really interesting as well, and it adds. I believe it also adds to Alfred's point, except that Alfred's advances to the inclusion of banks, which sometimes can slightly confuse individuals, because for instance, like we all know what is happening in the ecosystem right now, where the Euro wallet was attacked recently, and about 60 million ADA has been exploited, which means that people do not have access to their funds as we speak, right? So if a market woman asks you, okay, that's fine, that's a brilliant idea. Now I'm sort of my own bank, right? And of course, I'm becoming my own bank through a particular system that has been set up. So if something of this sort happens, if somebody tries to hack or exploit my my bank, how do I get it resolved? How do I get access to my funds and all that? Then you see it becomes a little bit tricky, because now you have to go into very technical details that this woman would never understand, or probably would not even appreciate what you're saying, right? So I do appreciate all the responses received so far. I mean, if I were in that position to explain to a market woman, I would lean towards Herin's explanation pretty more. Except that the only thing I would add to it is that, of course, you're selling. You are not the only one selling in the market, right? You are selling. Let's say person A is selling, person B is selling, person C is selling, right? And then you guys have this record book that you all keep. So this record book that you're all keeping, to make sure that no one person is, stealing or probably doing away with, sold funds. Everybody is recording the same thing, in their book. So if I record A, you will record B, another person would record. I mean, if I record A, you would record A, another person would also record A. So if we have to cross-check and verify our data, all we have to do is just look at what everybody has written in their books and then use it to confirm. So if I have A, the other person has A, and then you have B, then it means that there's something wrong that we have to look at. That is how I would put it. And of course, I would also introduce the fact that you are selling every day. You're probably writing in a book, but if you have access to conduct your sales on a platform, that particular platform would actually become your record book. And that record book is something that nobody can touch. Nobody can alter anything on it. So that becomes your, record book of life, where, nobody can, sue you or whatever it is. That's how I would explain to a market woman. But then it leads us to, the fact that you guys engage your communities during the CATS hackathon project. Now, I want to ask, I believe you all, when you're doing that, you are engaging with individuals, you talk to people. Did you ever come across, the challenge that you had to explain blockchain to somebody for the person to say, now I get it? Did anybody experience that? Great. So I see that Olivier has given me thumbs up. William has given me thumbs up, which is awesome. Now, my question to that would be, what analogy did you use during that discussion to make that individual, appreciate that they now understand what blockchain is? So maybe Olivier, you can come first, and then William will come after you. Yeah, Olivier, proceed. Oh, it looks like your microphone is still not fixed yet. We cannot hear you. Right? Let's see. Okay, William.
Yeah, how I easily explained it is on how funds can move from one place to another, especially in an event of buying a vehicle across borders. And the example was how funds move slowly from bank to bank, and also exorbitant charges that are involved in fiat transactions. So basically, those are the things that I touched in explaining how blockchain can actually work out in the system.
I don't know if it is just me, but your voice was really low, and I could barely hear what you're saying. But I heard you talking about the fact that blockchain eliminates, bank to bank in order to receive transactions from abroad and stuff like that. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, Olivier, let's give it a try again and see.
Okay, here, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry, I beat my computer, which has this problem. So the question is about, yeah, how did I like explain to some people what is blockchain according to the hackathon, let's say project, right?
Yes. What particular example did you use to explain blockchain for somebody to say, now I get it?
Okay. So for this, I can maybe go by the through example which I lived when I've been explaining to someone what is like when's the project we had. I told him that the project will just allow people to like when they want to sell things, they make transactions on chain through our DApp. And then he asked me, how will this transaction happen? And yes, firstly, what is the blockchain? So for this, I have been quite, let's say, short. And I told him that, so take it like there are transactions, transactions. So main transactions, they form a block. And then when a block is validated or is produced, it linked to other blocks in other blocks, and it become a blockchain. Of course, I've given him some other explanations like Erwin and others here try to say. And then telling to him what is like how is working the blockchain and what is the difference. He asked me, so how or why this transaction can't be like we send money through Airtel and mobile money. And I told him that the difference is that when you have your money on the blockchain, and when you make, for example, transaction, fees will be low. And no person who hold like you hold your money yourself. You have your seed phrase and no man can steal your money. And telling him about the example of escrow smart contract, where I told him that when you take an appointment with someone, when some conditions are not meet, you will still have your money. Even if you have put it in escrow, you will still have it until you find the people with whom you will just make transaction or deals, and then you will allow the man to go. And then he said, "Oh, I understand, Dan, that blockchain is like more good that mobile money and other maybe transactions ways we use here." This was the simple way in which I interacted with someone here locally, to whom I tried to explain blockchain through the project. Yes, we've been worked on. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing those perspectives to the table. Did anybody try to explain or use an analogy of the fact that you could, use blockchain to make transactions across board without having any, barriers? And did anybody try to use that analogy? Yeah. And one thing that makes it difficult about that analogy is the fact that every other country has their own policies, against blockchain. So if you intend to use that analogy solely, you probably may have to go back and update that individual's knowledge that, for instance, there are some countries that, they have limitations, or they have policies that kind of prevents, certain activities on the blockchain. So, the fact that it is able to work here, without any limits doesn't mean that it works everywhere without limits, And then the person will now understand, okay, so it's something that even though it is a disruptional process where, it kind of gives people another option in terms of, if you don't want to use a bank, then you can use this. And this is even an easier way to do it. But then it's also being regulated in some, countries, which means that people are being protected in a way, right? Because even though people want convenience, they still want security to make sure that they are safe with what they're doing. So that is something that I would definitely add into my analogy when I'm doing such discussions. Well, so we know, being in this ecosystem, we have been hearing words like decentralization, immutability, consensus, what have you, right? And I'm really intrigued to know from those of you here, your perspectives as to how if for instance you had somebody today asking you questions about how blockchain can help build trust, and you can probably draw a scenario from the fact that I believe that most of you have Euro wallets simply because you believe that Imego is a founding entity, so for that matter they have that credibility for you to trust them. But there's been an issue with them right now. Has that affected your trust for Imego, and how does that place your trust level in blockchain at large, right? And of course, when you were interacting with your project, I believe that each project had, if not the main purpose, a purpose to eliminate a particular middleman or a particular barrier, that prevents their communities from accessing certain things outside of their community. So, if you would like to share, what were some of these middlemen issues that you wanted to eliminate with, your project that you engaged with during the hackathon series, and why is that even crucial for the community that you represented? Who would like to say something?
No, come again with the question.
Yeah, so I'm saying that blockchain draws on trust, right? We know that we always say in the traditional world, the banking systems are always centralized, which means that it is somebody who is going to decide how much you can take out of your own bank account and how much you can deposit into your own bank account and stuff like that, which is literally centralized. And usually you could barely challenge their decisions, right? But now in the blockchain space, we are saying that, oh, we are all decentralized, we have decentralized nodes and all of that. So what it means is that if you are entering into the blockchain space, or if you are trying to leverage that as a solution, then it means that you want to do away with a certain middleman or barrier, in your community. So I want to understand, or I want to get a feel from you guys when you were engaging with a hackathon series, right? After identifying your project, what were some of these middle barriers that you wanted to eliminate with your solution, and how do these how do these barriers also affect your community?
Okay. I was we were looking at small scale businesses, small scale entrepreneur, and small scale mining. So our goal was to see how best we can protect the unbanked and the underbanked community for them to enter into the financial sector systems. So for them, they really don't have that footprint in the financial systems. And by our project, we are looking at how we are going to bring them in with less pressure, but with a high-powered protection. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that perspective on board as well. Alfred, were you guys the one building something in relation with health medication? We don't have Alfred. Solomon, would you want to say something to it? Okay. Herring? Okay, we don't have Herring too. All right, Olivier.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if I've got you well, but according to the question, I think that explaining to people in this situation, explaining to people what is consensus, this can be like a good way to explain them that blockchain is like, explaining them when even if you make a transaction, there is a need of many validators across the world which have to validate it before it be approved. I think this can be like a good way to explain them how much this is more decentralized, and no person who has like a power on deciding some things. Or like we can just give them examples of smart contracts. So I don't know. This will be like we go deeper, but I don't know how to say it in simple words. But also the logic of smart contracts is one way which can show that blockchain is a no person who has the power. Because when you deploy, for example, smart contract, transactions are held there. You haven't any power on what is happening. When you put in some rules, they have to be executed in order to let something being executed into a blockchain. Great, thank you.
Yeah, it sounds quite technical, right? But then it's also all about the fact that blockchain never shuts down. Like we always say, it never shuts down because there are multiple validators spread all over the world. So if validator A is having issues, there are multi-millions active, still keeping the chain running. So it gives you that confidence that at any time you want to have access to your own funds, you should have access to that funds. Unless there's been a compromise, you shouldn't have any issues, such as for instance, you want to go to the bank. If you're unable to get to the bank by say 5 p.m. UTC, you will not get your money, right? You have to go and come back the next day around 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. UTC, which literally means that the banks control how you even live your life, right? But with blockchain, because it is decentralized, it gives you that trust and confidence to live your life anyhow you want to live. Because at any point in time you want to access funds, you do have access to funds, and you can actually transact and then, still get your money to do whatever you want to do. So yeah, I mean, when you go deeper, then you talk about smart contracts and how all of these operations work. But because you're on the fundamentals, I would like to leave it there, and then as you proceed with the courses, you would have access to get further details. Yeah, but I see Frederick has his hand raised. Frederick, go ahead.
No, I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a bit late, and I'm not even sure if I got the question. What was the question and the discussion?
Yeah, so today we are discussing how blockchain works, which is we are looking at the fundamentals of blockchain. And we are just trying to wrap our head around, how we can simplify blockchain for ourselves and also simplify it for others if we have to explain to them what it is for them to appreciate it, right? So we have we've walked through trying to explain it to a market woman, and then we are now currently looking at the various parcels of blockchain. Of course, we know that when you mention blockchain, we are talking about decentralization, we're talking about immutability, we're talking about consensus and all. So we are on the first one, which is looking at the decentralization aspect, which is how do you narrate the trust aspect of blockchain to individuals. So how do you get people to be confident in the fact that blockchain doesn't operate just as these banks we know operate? And that is what Olivier came up with a point, trying to use smart contracts to explain, and I was like, those are a bit technical for fundamentals. Of course, it is good, but then if you have to explain to somebody in a layman's words, it's better to use analogies. For instance, like the fact that they can access their funds at any time, anywhere that they want to do. Unlike the banks, where the banks, you normally have between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. UTC to access the bank and then do your cash outs or probably do your deposits. This one, anytime, anywhere, you just can go ahead and do your transactions and nobody's going to question you for. And of course, you can also look at the fact that with blockchain, nobody questions how much is coming in and how much is going out. But banks, they question all of these things, and then they make you feel like it is your own money though, but they make you feel like you're doing something wayward, and it doesn't have to be done that way, and it's kind of restrictive, right? So that's where we are now. The next thing we're going to look at, let me introduce this before I let you in, Olivia. The next thing we're going to look at is the immutability aspect of the blockchain, which is the fact that the ledger that never changes. So let's try to understand this from, you guys, when you are building your solutions to the problems you identified, right? On paper, we always say that with blockchain, if A is recorded, it is recorded forever. You can never clean it and write B over there, right? But what it means is that once a mistake is made, the mistake is made forever. It doesn't go anywhere, right? So how did you grapple with the idea of having an unchangeable data when designing your solutions for local issues, like for instance property, right? Because we know that, for instance, when you are dealing with properties like lands, right, there are times where you could make mistakes and then you would have to correct these mistakes. So how did you grapple with this whole analogy of ensuring that this is exactly what you go for in terms of using this unchangeable data approach? And maybe Olivia, you can touch on it, and then we'll see if somebody else also wants to ask something.
Yeah, I think that it's true that the blockchain is immutable. Reason why there are some like test networks, and some tests, and also, for example, when there is a case of smart contracts, you have this ability to test the smart contract, see if transactions work, see if everything work, and in that case, you are off chain and you have the ability to change everything. But things will be immutable when you will deploy a smart contract. When you deploy it, you can't change anything. I don't know if there are other developers here who can just talk something like me, but this is what I think about this question of immutability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It is very important that when you are building softwares, you make use of the test environments just to get a fair feeling of how things would pan out once you go live. Because once you go live, the first thing is that you have a lot of people, interacting with whatever you have built at a particular point in time. And it could be minute by minute, right? And you don't want a situation where, individuals are interacting with your platform and then now it is having a lot of bugs and issues and, it's kind of crashing here and there. That is the first thing. The second thing is that, when you test in the test environment, it allows you to identify any mistakes that you have to work on before deploying to mainnet. So I do agree with what Olivier is saying, that, you can use a testnet environment, narration to allow people to understand that, okay, it is immutable though. Once you go on chain, if you are on chain, everything is, like permanently written. You can never change anything. But before you even get there, you have the opportunity to also use the test environment to, do whatever mistakes you have to do and then, check them out and then, correct them before you proceed to, the mainnet. But then one would also ask you, okay, fine, that's fine. But what if you're on mainnet and then people still make mistakes? Then how do we look at getting these things done, right? And these are some of the things that if you go through the learning materials, you get a deeper understanding of how the blockchain actually works and, how issues are resolved on the blockchain. The issue may be there, but then something has to be done to, correct the issue. So of course, if you are querying the blockchain, you will identify the issue, and then you would also identify what was made to correct that particular issue for everybody to be able to move on in life, right? So that is what immutability will look like as far as blockchain is concerned. Does anybody else any other thing they would want to add to it before I move to the next item? Yeah, Frederick.
Yeah, so my 2 cents to start with is, first of all, there's a huge temptation for the majority of the people to, whenever you talk of blockchain, everybody thinks about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. There's that huge misconception. And then when people think of crypto, because there's a lot of what I call consumption, when you're dealing with crypto, okay? Because these are maybe technologies or platforms that are built elsewhere. So whoever is on the platform, they are simply consuming what has been built. So they are not building, they are not solving, any problem. So most of the people are actually in trading, and a lot of bad actors have taken advantage of the situation. So blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin has become highly associated with scams. That's the narrative we need to correct. So blockchain is not crypto, it's not Bitcoin. These are just fractions, because we're not using blockchain just, in finance, if you like, but we're using it in agriculture, right? And it's good that us who are on the core as developers, we are building solutions using blockchain, because blockchain is part of the Web3 technology, which is the latest version of the internet, right? So we've moved a step further because of some of those characteristics you talked about: decentralization, okay, transparency, okay, immutability, and stuff like that. So now coming to the issue of immutability, that once a mistake is recorded, yeah, it's very true that record which has a mistake cannot be altered, and the reason is because of the consequences. So when you're recording transactions, becomes transparent. Okay, so everybody who's part of that transaction, they're able to see the record. So if you made a mistake and then you secretly maybe want to change it, it becomes almost impossible for you to do that, because everyone is aware. Everybody who's part of that transaction, they've got the same record. So like you put it, it's not that the mistakes cannot be corrected. So the best way the mistakes can be corrected is to create a new record with a correct transaction, correct detail, if you like. Maybe a simple tip, for example, is we print the document today, and then we discover as we are reading through the hard copy, there are mistakes. That hard copy, we can't change it, right? But we can still fall back on the saved copy, make the correction, and print a new copy. Something like that. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for adding that to it. It's more like an elaborated version of what I was trying to say, but yeah, it adds to the conversation, and I really love the angle at which you were, attacking the issue here. Yeah, and we have just about 4 minutes to wrap up. So I would like us to look at one last thing I was thinking about when I was, going through these courses. Of course, it has to do with, the consensus mechanism for blockchain, right? We know that in our local communities, but of course, maybe before I even talk about the consensus, let me ask you guys, in your local communities, right? In your local communities, how are decisions made, or how are agreements, made traditionally? I'm asking this because, for instance, I was working on a project with some colleagues, and that project had to do with land management. And there were bottlenecks simply because the traditional leaders wanted to, go about things in their own way. And then we were also trying to introduce blockchain, which, of course, we made the explanation and everything. They didn't understand it, but then they were fearful of the fact that it would take away their ability to do certain things that, we are trying to solve as an issue, which is, for instance, they will sell the land to somebody and then they will go and sell it to another person and it will create litigation issues, right? So in your various local communities, and with this one, I want you to cast your mind back to when you were doing your research about the problems in your communities. How did you identify, how traditional leaders in your communities made decisions or made agreements on issues that pertain to the problems that you wanted to solve with blockchain? And here I would like to hear from Abdul Rahman, and also my way of acknowledging your presence. Abdul Rahman, are you with us? Okay, looks like it's not. How about Indumo? Oh, he's also gone. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now let me just throw it to all of you out there. Who wants to take a bite? Yep, go ahead, Heron.
So most of the time, it's more of there's voting. Then there's a time where people vote, but again after voting, there are some people, or let's say dignitaries, who are going to go through all the votes and then decide which one is more better just by balancing. So traditionally, that's how most of the decisions are being done. But now in my community, we do nowadays more of voting. And then those who, let's say, the majority maybe wins, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I think it is practiced almost the same everywhere, because over here too, they always go with the rule of simple majority, right? So whoever comes, whichever option emerges best, then of course they use it to work. But we all know that in the blockchain space, for instance, in the Cardano ecosystem, we use something we call the proof of stake, right? Which is it's all about validation, like block validations. Once a block is produced, somebody would have to mint that block, and then the rest of the ecosystem participant, which is the SPUs, of course, would have to validate that particular block that has been minted. So if we bring this to our local communities, then it probably would be like, for instance, if there's an issue or if there's a transaction or whatever it is, somebody would have to own up to, or somebody would have to accept that particular issue, and then the rest of the traditional leaders would have to deliberate over that issue and then confirm that indeed it is an issue that needs to be resolved, or it is an issue that has been resolved, right? So I was hoping to hear more of the discussion coming from your engagement with your communities in terms of the problems you identified during the hackathon space. But I believe that going forward, as you take the courses, you'll probably be able to do that integration, and then hopefully in the subsequent discussions, you'll be able to bring in more of the examples and more of the issues you identified to make or to spice up the discussion. Other than that, it is going to sound more like theoretical discussion, but I want it to be extremely practical and extremely easy for anybody else to understand, because of course, like we said, not everybody might have the chance to look at the learning materials during the week. So at this point, I just want to encourage all of you to if you have the space, look up Okay, before then, Olivia. Then we'll close.
Okay, thank you. While being in like fundamental notions on blockchain, the current situation of Cardano. I know that, for example, for beginners, they can say, "Hey, you say that blockchain is secured, and then how people have been stolen data, things like this." So I don't know what's our perspectives, or like what do we think about that? Is that this is it means that Cardano is not secured, or like I don't know. What are your perspective, especially Nana Safo?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that question, right? I know it is a very important question around this time because of what is happening with your you know, one thing that we need to understand clearly is the fact that when we say blockchain is secured, right? Of course, not everything can be secured 100%. No matter how secured you are, there are still some loopholes. It is just that the attacker has not yet identified that particular loophole. That's why, you're able to boast that you are secured, you are secured, you are secured. So, for instance, if I'm to use the analogy of what is happening recently in the ecosystem, which is Yoroi wallet being hacked and all of that, you would realize that Yoroi is a third-party application on Cardano, built on Cardano. So it is not Cardano itself. And Cardano itself is a blockchain, right? It is unfortunate that we are not able to point to, a certain infrastructure and say that this is Cardano for you to understand, or for you to see that, okay, this is Cardano, and then be able to access the security apparatus of the structure to say that, okay, it is indeed secured or not, right? But then Yoroi as a wallet, which is third party, was built on the Cardano blockchain. Yoroi itself can be prone to attacks, okay? Whereas Cardano itself is not prone to attacks. And technically, what it means is that Cardano can have the best of security, and it is the duty of Yoroi to also, integrate such security into their system so that they are not easily hijacked by attackers. But if they fail to do that, right, then it means that they are going to be prone. And the unfortunate is also that for any other individual to interact with the blockchain, which is via transactional, you'd have to go through a wallet. And that wallet, most of it is what we see around. We see Vespa, we see Eternal, we see Yoroi. Okay. So because of the fact that for you to be able to interact with the blockchain, which is via transaction, you have to go through the wallet. Once the wallet is hacked and then you are affected or not, then it's easy for you to believe that, okay, the blockchain itself, which is Cardano, for instance, is not secure. So that is what leads people to believing that even though people go on to say that blockchain is secure, blockchain is actually not secure because people are losing their money day in and day out to hackers, right? So the issue has to do with the third-party applications, which is the wallets, who have developed their systems attached to these blockchains and failing to, integrate the necessary security measures to ensure that, their customers are safe, right? And that is the issue. So now you realize that any blockchain has a native wallet that they use. And for instance, in Cardano's case, it is a Daedalus wallet, right? That wallet has been secured for a very long time. It remains secured. It has never been breached. Okay. But the question is, how many of us are actually using Daedalus? Probably just a few, because it's almost like a hardware wallet where if you have to synchronize the blockchain, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources, right? So it is not convenient for everybody to use it on a go. So on a go, we prefer wallets that are easy to synchronize, wallets that are easy to facilitate transactions. And those are the ones that we see: Vespa, Eternal, Yoroi, Lace, and what have you, right? So I would say that blockchain still remains secured technically, but then it is a third-party application that allows us to have an interface with the blockchain that are not 100% secure, and that is why we do experience these attacks. But I would love to hear from any other person who has a diverging opinion, or probably would want to add a few to what I have said, and then we can all take it as maybe the takeaway from here. we're happy to learn. Yeah, go ahead, Frederick. Frederick, please proceed.
Okay, although my network tripped, the question was about blockchain being prone to attack or being secure or something like that.
Yeah, it's about the security of blockchain, basically. I mean, like he's saying that people say, like people hear blockchain is secure, but then sometimes blockchain gets attacked and then people lose their fortunes. How do you explain such scenario to somebody for them to understand that this is the actual issue, right?
Yeah, so I would like to concur with what you just said, that in most cases it happens with third-party applications. Because you see, the nature of blockchain technology is that already, like I mentioned, is part of Web3 applications or decentralized technologies, right? So it's not like Web2 where you have centralized servers, Google server, Azure, Microsoft, AWS, right? Blockchain uses nodes that are distributed on the network. So even those transaction records are not and to compromise control of think of that. How much effort does it take to take to like maybe capture 51% of the node? So maybe as they are compromising the nodes, a number of them, others are being recovered. Yeah, so the effort is not worthwhile, right? And then you see the word blockchain again is the nature of blockchain. That's why there's even what they call, is it the Byzantine tolerance or something like that, yeah? Where like even if some of the nodes are compromised, but the majority of the nodes will still have consensus and be able to perform. So it's not that it's 100%, yeah? There could be some, gaps in there, but the effort it will take. So that's why it's said that it's very secure. But of course, if something happens, it could be like what Nana mentioned. Is it the third-party application, which is more prone? Something like that. Thank you.
Exactly. And I mean, in this age where technology keeps on advancing, especially with the introduction of artificial intelligence, right? It basically exposes each and every system and their vulnerabilities, right? So what it means is that if you have a blockchain where you do not have maintenance working day in, day out to ensure that there's ultimate security, then it means that there's going to be an issue, with time to come, right? Because we've seen other blockchains, for instance, Solana being hacked and then the system being brought to a halt for some time, right? And usually that is the impact you would see whenever a blockchain is hacked. You realize that the system is brought to a halt, transactions are not able to proceed and all, and then it affects trading and everything, right? But then once these third-party apps are hacked, then basically you're going to lose your money. You're going to lose all your assets, and that is very, very dangerous, right? So it is for every blockchain maintainer to, keep up with research and then, keep up with, testing their systems against robust attacks to ensure that there are no loopholes for, bad actors to, fill in. Like Frederick mentioned, there are millions of nodes spread across, right? So, and like we say, blockchain is immutable. That is the basics of the blockchain because it's all a ledger. For you to be able to successfully attack it, it means that you should be able to make changes to this ledger, and that is simply you taking out 51% of existing ledgers before you can be able to do that. And that is something that you would never want to try because it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of manpower, and it is not worthwhile. So people just decide to let it go, and then they focus their attention on these third-party apps which have easy to crack vulnerabilities, and then they attack it, and then people go wild because they're losing their asset, right? So that is pretty much what I would say about blockchain security. In a nutshell, I would say blockchain is heavily secured, but then issues exist with most of the third-party apps. And for individuals who are interested in engaging with blockchain, they need to do extensive research to make sure that the third-party apps that they are affiliating themselves with are well secured, and they can of course trust that their funds are safe with them. Other than that, just go for a hardware wallet, get a hard wallet, get a ledger, and then you're good to go. All right, I have Olivia, I believe your question is somewhat answered, if not entirely.
Yes, it was answered, but what I have to maybe to underline for us who are building locally, or yes, we have to tell to the community that security of blockchain is shared. For case of let's say wallet address and other things, because for this case of the Cardano, I realized that the problem is from Secondify wallet and not from the Cardano blockchain. So
Yes.
we have to show to the community that wallets are really only windows to show what we have on blockchains, but funds we see in wallet are not really these wallets are not those who hold these funds are in blockchain, but wallets are only these doors or which help us to see what you have in blockchain, and we have to keep them secure. Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very important, and thanks for highlighting that as well. So let's look at closing up. We are 13 minutes over the line. But before then, I want to see if we can get the next moderator for the next call, which is next week, Thursday. Richmond, can you bring up the slides for us to see which topic we are discussing next week and see if we have somebody owning up or registering to take that particular discussion? And of course, I'll hand over to you, Megan, if you can, to get us through. So we'll go back to slide 4. Okay, here. Is it here? Yeah. So the next topic is going to be the multi-chain world, which is beyond Cardano. So we are going to look at blockchain above Cardano, right? And who here? I see we have Olivier, we have Frederick, we have Erin, we have Abdurrahman. Who would want to moderate that particular discussion for next week?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in. Nanisaf, you're doing a great job. But just remember, it's really not about knowing everything, being a moderator. It's about finding the right questions to ask. And I think this one's a really interesting one because we talk a lot about Cardano, right, in this group. So the opportunity here is just to take a little step back and look at some other things. I think we all know Cardano has dropped out of the top 10. So there's really a lot of other blockchains, as part of this discussion, like why is blockchain important? Why is it relevant? I think it's a good reminder to kind of like look at the other ones. So I would almost say like we should have multiple people signing up in terms of moderator and thinking about how we can get multiple angles on this topic. But I see Frederick raised his hand. Maybe he wants to be moderator.
Yeah, would you like me to jump in?
Yes. Would you like to moderate the next session? Next week call.
Yeah, it's if it's cool. Yeah, as Megan puts it, it's just like the what? Orchestrating the choir, right? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I can give it a shot.
Perfect. Thanks for taking it up. And
My pleasure. It's my pleasure.
yes. So I would hand over to you, Megan, and then you can look at if there is any other resource you want to tell us about, and then we can close. But then thanks for the opportunity, and thanks everybody for cooperating with me as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nana Sapo, and thanks, Frederick, for signing up next week. Part of what we talked about at the very beginning of the call is look at this as a list of resources. If you find your own resources, in kind of doing the assignment, and you want to share those as well with the group, you can feel free to post it in our chats. Before or after the call, like I said, maybe kind of the call sparked some of us to want to go back to those materials. As with other weeks, we will kind of be, it's really just a check-in point, and those resources are always available. So I would just feel free to add other resources when you find it. And otherwise, this was a great discussion. Thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks to Nana Sapo. And we'll see you all next week.